Stephen.
Hey Matthew, how's it going?
Uh, yeah, not bad. I'd start the video. Oh, yeah, working from home today, so you get the joys of my living room wall.
Nice.
Yeah, I had to explain to an interested colleague earlier that it's like, yeah, not the classiest art gallery. It's basically a Guinness advert and then two things of my wife's from Seville, which are both just pictures of flamenco gypsy types.
Nice.
Uh, So how did how I got a message from Karush saying he wasn't able to join. Um I think he just fired it off to me because I'm in his address book, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Um I haven't heard anything from Sherman, so I don't know whether he's due to join. Did the two of them join last Tuesday, or were you flying
Uh,
solo?
Karush was there last Tuesday. Sherman Sherman wasn't there.
To be fair, he might have been traveling to. We had a an event for channel partners for like resellers.
Ah, right.
And I know he was at that on Wednesday and Thursday, so it might be that he was traveling on the Tuesday to get there.
Yeah,
But
that makes sense. We did have Mark Dancy attend.
oh, okay.
Um, and I don't know if you saw the message last week. Just go back. Where is it? Let's find it.
Even if I did, I can't guarantee that I'll have logged it. If you see what I mean, it was all a bit of a blur last week, if I'm
Yeah.
honest.
How was your trip?
Yeah, it was fun actually. It was
Conference.
fun. It was very interesting. Um, there was quite a bit of talk of digital twins. Um, more so actually in um, more so in a kind of forward facing. So I was in there's one technical committee that's all just indoor environment monitoring, modeling. And they were talking about proposing a set of proposing a set of seminars, um, or a debate, which would be interesting, about digital twins. And like the one that was potentially a debate was, what are what are digital twins and what are they useful for, sort of thing. Um, and originally it was down as a seminar proposal and immediately sparked off a debate in the room about what, what a digital twin is and what it's useful for. um, at which point they were saying that maybe it'd be better as a sort of a hosted debate, if you see what I mean.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so there's definitely like
What were the
interest there.
main
And
what were the main viewpoints for
oh well, I mean, for a start, there was the classic like, is it real-time data or is it just appropriately intervaled data? Like, what do you mean by real time? If you see what I mean,
yeah, do you mean actual real
like,
time with deadlines or just quick
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah. And like, what are you doing an analog signal, or is it? Because if not, it's inherently not going to be continuous. Like, um, that sort of yeah, that sort of end of things, I guess. And then like what level, whether so another interesting one was the guy from Schneider Electric, Jim Van Gilder, um, was putting forward the case because their tool is largely focused on design, um, and isn't as focused on sort of operational modeling. Um, he was therefore making the case about digital twins being in existence before the physical asset. Sort of, you can have a twin of your intended physical asset before you build your physical asset. Um, which I can get on board with, in part because it it makes sense and matches up from my
yeah.
professional perspective, if you see what I mean, as well as my
Yeah.
personal technical viewpoint.
They
Um,
you also have to be
but
able to create twins of physical assets that exist now, not in the future.
yeah, 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 exactly. I think that's key, really, is that any tool that claims to be for that purpose should, if you're building a design digital twin, it's like in on the understanding that that's going to morph into an operational digital twin, I would say. Otherwise, it is just a model of your system, if you see what I mean, rather
Yeah, it's
than
just a CAD
like
drawing.
the seed. Yeah, exactly. Or more than the CAD drawing if you've got like all of the, well, not all of the, but like a number of the sort of physical behavioral aspects being represented, sort of thing. But
Yeah,
yeah, so there was that. There was like the design or not design. There was the real-time sampling. Um, there was like the number of systems that you've got to have tied into it for, you know, for it to be considered a true digital twin. Um, I mean, I think the term true digital twin alone is a difficult one, right? Because I think uh, true digital twin, if I was going to start throwing that terminology around, would be you've got everything in that you can possibly get in, if you see what I mean, rather than what we've sort of talked about in terms of getting in what you need to get in order to achieve what you're intending to achieve with your digital twin, if you see what I mean.
yeah, it's like a true,
Um,
yeah, like a, yeah, you're almost implying like a divine inspirational, like God model of,
yeah, exactly.
like
As soon as you put that word
infinite
true in front
detail.
of it, yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah,
Highest possible resolution on every possible aspect of it that you could potentially
yeah,
include, apart from accounting for like chaos theory meddling with things.
yeah, and well, you can do that. Yeah, you can just Markov model it, right? You just do it multiple times, and it's fine. Monte Carlo simulation. Yeah, so yeah, you could. Yeah, I suppose there's also an element of like infinitely multi-physics solver involved in that too, right? There's like a like yes, I can model the CFD, but I can also model the electrics and the pump.
hmm
I can model the turbulence in the pump, and yeah,
Yeah, well, that's the problem as well, right? Is that at the point that you're saying it's a true digital twin, how far do you need to drill down into the details? Like, would it be enough that you're modeling an ACU, or would you need to model a heat exchanger and a fan and some filters? And once you're doing the fan, do you need to be modeling how that motor's behaving? Like, you know,
yeah,
like you
yeah,
said, it's like an infinite God model of going all the way down to like what's happening in this PLC. We should probably be modeling the internal circuitry. Like,
yeah. Do you have to
um,
account for the heat that's generated by the equipment that you're not actively cooling?
yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah, so it all gets to yeah. So that was interesting, like little diversion that we went on in that meeting. Um, and then there was also some talk around doing presentations. I mean, less thought out. It was actually put forward by Karush's colleague Ali Hadari. And I only say less thought out for the record. I only say less thought out because it was proposed as opposed to something that was already under discussion, if you see what I mean. So in the meeting, when they were talking about, they're called program subcommittees that basically submit suggestions for the program of the next conference, sort of thing. And when they were asking about people's suggestions, he suggested, uh, a session talking about data center digital twins. Um, I think his I guess focus would be to try and talk about something related to the Omniverse specifically. Um, but that would most of the time, if that's either whether that's a paper session or a sort of like full set of seminars as opposed to just sort of presenting abstracts of papers. That would normally be like a number of presentations, if you see what I mean. It's normally like 3 or 4 in a batch. Um, and one of the interesting things that came up in TC 9.9, the sort of ASHRAE data center committee, was that they were talking about trying to work more closely with OCP. So I could imagine, for
Okay.
example, we could, if they were to go ahead with a program around digital twins, then we could potentially um, sort of throw the OCP hat into the ring and go, how about a crossover? And we could do something talking about OCP work around digital twins to accompany other people's presentations, sort of thing, and give more of a high level overview where maybe some people would be focusing in on what their particular offering did. Although that's challenging because like at the ASHRAE conference, it's quite aggressively non-commercial. Like you're not
Yeah.
allowed to talk about your, other than on the front slide where it says what company you work for, and you get to put a sort of a logo on that front slide only. But after that, you're not allowed to talk about product names. You're not allowed to talk about company names. You're not allowed to, even the images all have to have like logos cropped out of them. So every screenshot I have to like, paste something over any window that shows one of our icons.
Hmm.
So
I mean, I guess that's a good thing, but I guess it
well, it
also,
keeps it from turning into a marketing event, if you see what I mean. It's not
yeah,
just people sending their business development manager to bang the drum about their latest development. It's actually like, here's something novel that can solve people's problems. The point isn't to sell it to you. The point is to educate you as an engineer to whom this might be useful, sort of thing. Um, and they're mostly quite, they mostly do remain technical. Even the seminars where it's someone's done something with their stuff, if you see what I mean. They
yeah,
keep
yeah,
it focused on what the stuff is that they've done rather than what they used to do it. Um, yeah, no, it was good. I think the OCP crossover I think is particularly promising because ASHRAE's relatively slow moving, partly because it's a sort of like a lot of the standards that they set get adopted from a legal perspective, if you see what I mean. Um, and like the ASHRAE handbook can be cited in a court of law in America as this is the basis for my decision, if you see what I mean. And
yeah,
so they're
yeah,
much, as a result, they move slowly enough to make sure that the decisions they're making are defensible. um, whereas, yeah, I guess with OCP, there's more freedom because it's sort of non non-binding standards, if you see what I mean, and people can adopt it or not.
yeah. It's voluntary standards. It's a new and almost basically an entirely new format of data center. Um, so yeah,
Mm.
yes. And plus they're the Silicon Valley. They come out of Silicon Valley, so it's more of a move fast and break things. Um, that's good or not, I don't
Indeed.
know. Um,
I was trying to push. I was surprised. I thought that was like a widely recognized phrase, right? And I was pushing it with some of our sort of sales and marketing people as like that should be our tagline for data center digital twins. It's like move fast without breaking things because you can like do the simulations, check the fallout before you actually have to commit, sort of thing. Um, but yeah, they just never heard of it, none of them. And it's just like I had a moment of like doubting my own sanity, if you see what I
really?
mean, of going like, did I make this up in my head that like everyone knows that's the thing about Silicon Valley? But excuse me, reassuring at least that you know the reference.
It might just be like a program, a software engineering thing, maybe. I don't know. But
Yeah,
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 I've
yeah,
heard
could
it.
be, could be, yeah. But yeah, so that's sort of largely the relevant stuff from ASHRAE, I think. Um, there was
Cool.
some
But,
there was there was some interesting stuff that I thought was sort of up your street in a seminar that I was going to. It basically reminded me a little bit of I guess the kind of direction of travel with the load balancing stuff that you were working on at the Bowden type DC kind of time. Um, but yeah, it was more about using digital twins for sort of distributing. I think this was actually distributing like load on a power grid or something. But like
okay.
how do you how do you load up bits of HVAC gear that are on a kind of common power network essentially in the most effective way. It was quite interesting. So there was
Nice.
there's a few bits of sort of ML control, load management, distribution type stuff. That's quite interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, that kind
So
of reminds me of there's like a UK government digital twin program I came across, I think it was last year, and the only kind of what was it? If I can find it again. The only kind of concrete use case they had was on power infrastructure, like the national grid, basically, and energy systems.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, this lot are all very interested in like building energy, if you see what I mean. So as soon as you move away from building level distribution, they sort of gets sort of a little bit further out of the wheelhouse of the ASHRAE people, if you see what I mean.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Well, that would make sense. Yeah.
so what did I miss last week? I guess because I think Sherman had said that he was gonna start filling out a section. I can't remember
Uh,
whether Karush took one. I said I
so
would, but then didn't write down what I was going to do and promptly forgot.
okay. So we haven't made massive amounts of progress.
Hmm.
Um, I think Sherman said he's going to write down some of the problems for data centers, like what the digital twins solve in data centers.
Hmm.
Um, that hasn't really been touched. I think we have added some more stuff to that now, but that could do with being looked at. Um, I started tackling the digital twin maturity level type things. So
Oh yeah.
there's a um there's a table um that I put in last week with kind of bullet points around the different levels. Did have a chat around that with Karush, especially like because what I've defined as level 4 is kind of what he's been talking about a little bit. So yeah, he seems supportive on that. But I don't think the table is the best format for it. So
Hmm.
I've started to make a what do they call it? Like an infographic on Canva. Um,
Oh yeah.
but it's
How's that going?
eh, not a designer, am I?
Discovering. I was about to say discovering your alternate future as a graphic designer.
Oh yeah, love it. Um, I can show you I keep forgetting how to switching between Teams and Zoom. I always forget which one is always how to share. So that's what I've got so far. Um, I'm not super happy with it yet. I think I want to add some extra text here. Oops. Nope. From the table, and then we'll obviously have to add some wording around this.
Hmm.
Um, but essentially it goes from I talked about this before, from like you've got no digital twin, you're just kind of manually collecting data, through to okay, you've got telemetrics, you're doing some analysis on it, now you've got simulation, now we're looking at like the digital twin providing recommendations for optimization, and then finally you've got kind of like the all singing all dancing. The digital twin is managing itself and updating itself and managing the actual physical asset as well.
Hmm.
So that kind of spiel talk needs to, I think, go here somehow.
Yeah.
So it's in a table. And I realized the table is like a page long. Nobody's going to read that.
Yeah. No, this is nice. This is visually it works well.
Thanks. Yeah. The thinking was nobody's going to read a table. They might look at a picture and then look at the picture a bit more and read some of the picture stuff. Also,
Mm,
we have to do a presentation as part of the thing, so it would make sense to have this on there, and then this
pre-made
potentially
graphic.
gets
Yeah,
carried
yeah.
on for other places. So like there's multiple benefits of doing it,
Mm,
but it's not done yet. So um yeah,
it's a good
that's it.
start though.
Yeah, thanks. Um kind of talk with that with Karush. Karush said he was gonna look at some of the challenges section. Um
Oh, I think that was the bit that I'd said. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, so I think you said you were going to look at the standards bit and maybe some of the co-simulation bits. Um, Karush wanted to kind of look at the intellectual property protection bit, and maybe some of the model interchange and data interchange bits. He said he had some interesting calls with people uh the week prior, where they were kind of like, we've got a digital twin, it's a CAD model. And kind of that made him kind of think about, model interchange and intellectual property, and they were
Mm,
bit hesitant to hand over parts of their CAD model because um that's proprietary. I think he was talking about, was it an A handling unit or some kind of chiller or something? Um, the company was providing a chiller, but instead they had a digital twin model, but it turned out to be a CAD model, and then like the control system logic was like proprietary, so it couldn't be shared and couldn't be utilized in any model or anything like that.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I've been in some conversations with cooling hardware people where yeah, they're very protective of it.
Yeah,
And I mean, a lot of that high detail CAD, I mean, it's literally the recipe you need for a coffee shop. Like, yeah, not attractive handing over manufacturing level CAD detail to people.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so yeah, I can imagine he's bumped. I can imagine he's bumped up
yeah.
against that.
Then I'd also, I
Um,
mean, I'm not sure I would, for the purposes of a digital twin where you're caring about the operation of the data center, I'm not sure a manufacturing level CAD model is an appropriate digital twin, really.
no, no, I would certainly agree with that.
Like
I think
they're
it's it, what it is though is if you're using your digital twin at the design stage to coordinate different services and different disciplines and stuff, I think that's where with some components it's pertinent. I would argue that anything that's inside its own metal box, you probably don't need to include.
Yeah, so I
If
was
you see
thinking
what I
like
mean.
you need a metal box, right? And you need like a don't cover this part of the metal box, and this
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
where
yeah, yeah,
like utilities go into the metal box.
yeah.
Um,
But you don't necessarily need the full detail. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
yeah, yeah, it's interesting. So, I don't know if he's done any of that. There's no change in the document itself. So yeah. Um, the other thing that was happening last week, so it said Mark Dancy came
Oh yeah, yeah.
and did. Uh, he fired off an email afterwards to Julius Kusuma, um, who I think is a Google person. Oh, Meta. He
Okay.
was talking about someone else from Google. Um, so apparently there is a the DCF project, which I think is the OCP data center facilities project.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're sort of an offshoot of that, as I understand it.
I believe the digital twin working group is also an offset of the DCF. I think.
Mm,
I think we're under the DCF. Um,
yeah.
so apparently in the DCF meetings, people started talking about digital twins and said, "Oh, we need to have a presentation on digital twins. We need to like talk more about digital twins. Um,
Okay.
digital twins are going to get important, that kind of thing." And Mark Dancy pointed out that we already had a group and it was meeting, and maybe they should join the group. Um, so I've
Have you
seen
had
that Julius.
many any new joiners on groups.io?
Uh, we have had. I think Julius has joined us on Groups.io. I'll double check the directory now. I think he joined. Yes, so he has joined. Um,
Oh, nice.
and Mark Dancy shot him an email last week, basically saying we meet now.
Mm,
And no response. So,
guess we'll see where that goes.
yeah. So I think he also mentioned Bijan as well was going to join.
Oh, Bijan Nawuz. I've been in conversations with him previously. Um,
I've
yeah, I
written the
think he's
name.
quite high up. I think he's quite high up in I think he's quite high up uh in OCP.
Yeah, I think
I
he's like
can't
the
remember exactly his role.
technical lead or something like that.
Mm.
Um, oh, his okay, he has another profile on. He is also in the group, but hasn't joined. And I've written another name, Madhu, but that's assuming a Google engineer. Um, yeah, so apparently they're uh gonna be talking about digital twins, and Julius is making some kind of presentation about them to the DCF
Okay.
relatively soon. Um, but there is he hasn't got back to us, so I'm not sure about that. And Mark was
Well, we
also
should at least
saying
did Mark say how frequently the DCF group have their meetings?
no.
I guess it would make sense to try and get looped into them.
Yeah, if we're doing the same stuff, then perhaps, yeah. Um, it- okay, wait, there was this on the DCF website. There's one from the this is says from the 8th of February, but then the 10th there. Um, let's see. Talks about the next one. No. Every third Wednesday of the month at 10:30 Eastern Standard. So that would be tomorrow, 10:30 ET.
At what time Eastern? 10 o'clock, did you say?
Uh, yes. E ET? That's
Yeah, I think that would be Eastern time.
that isn't Eastern time usually EST. Is that
I
Europe?
thought that as well, but then more frequently I've seen ET, PT, and like MT for mountain time and stuff.
Oh, okay, ET. Yeah, Eastern time.
But yeah, I always thought it was EST, and then when I searched for it, I kept getting results for ET, and eventually
Uh,
accepted
uh,
I was probably wrong.
According to Google, Eastern Standard Time is often used to denote local time in areas observing either Eastern Standard Time or Eastern Daylight Time. So it's just the Eastern time zone with the daylight savings and inclusive of daylight savings.
Gotcha.
So that's 7:30. I think Google is converting to my time. Yes. Maybe. Oh no, event shown in Pacific time.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna say it should be.
it's like 4 o'clock in the morning for us.
But didn't you say it was at like 10 a.m. or something Eastern time?
Yeah.
So then it'd be like 3 in the afternoon for us, I think.
Oh no,
Like
yes, yeah,
5
sorry,
hours.
wrong thing. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah,
I might be able,
it might be worth trying one of us trying to jump on that call or something.
yeah, I think I might be free. Yeah, I'm theoretically free at 3 p.m. tomorrow. I'll have a look at
Go. Here's the link in the chat. There's a calendar below at the bottom there.
nice one.
Yeah, so that was basically all that happened last week. Yeah, we talked around Bruce and I talked around the level stuff and what needs to be done on the paper. Kind of talked about how to organize it a bit, organizing like what needs to get done. Adopted the well, I suggested the approach of like pick a section that interests you and write it, and then we'll figure out after that because there's just so many sections that need
What's
writing.
left over? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is annoying. It's trying to copy it to my calendar from like put it on my Google calendar rather than let me put it into my normal calendar.
And I think the other thing that Mark suggested, I think he suggested this before, as well, is maybe for the section 4, we're looking at conclusions and further work. That might be when we want to start. Well, in particular, looping in like Bijan, maybe some of the other DCF people, kind of looking at how the digital twin work stream might feed into some of these other things, or at least take some inspiration from some of the other work streams OCP are doing.
Yeah, I think that sounds sensible.
Yeah, because it's all very well us kind of saying we'll write something that talks about interoperability standardization, but if that's not needed by the industry or nobody's there yet, then it's kind of pointless.
Yeah. Well, certainly the interoperability bit, I see as a fair way off personally. So I would see it more as starting to talk about what that format would need to look like and cover, if you see what I mean, more than like rather than going in the next 6 months, we're going to deliver an interoperability standard. I would see it more as we deliver an initial white paper
Yeah.
that gets relevant parties interested in conversation. And then from there, you can start talking about what it needs to look like. And in truth, like my expectation would be that you're probably going to need interoperability standards between different tools for the same discipline before you can expect anything interoperable at the facility level. So you'd need to be able to go like this description of a data center power distribution network could be opened and usefully used in multiple softwares, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And likewise for a flow network, before you can have any hope really, in my humble opinion, of being able to go, this entire data center is, you know, represented in a way that can be opened in any other tool. Like, um,
Yeah, I mean, I when I studied it, I think the FMI standard is a good approach for
hmm,
commercial tools, mostly because it doesn't give anything away.
hmm,
It's not so much an it's for model interchange, it's for all of these things, for co-simulation and model interchange, but it achieves that by basically going, here's a DLL, here's a a library. You also need to have our solver on your machine, and then the library that we
hmm.
provide in that model will link back to our solver, and everything runs over there. And here's
Oh,
a
so it
dependent.
basically just maps it back into your local format sort of thing.
Yeah, it's literally like the entire FMI standard is literally an XML file that defines what the interface is, so the values that are being passed, and
Hmm.
then a DLL essentially, or a .a file, like a dynamic link library.
Yeah,
The
something
whole
nice
thing.
and opaque.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Basically, it's just fully opaque. Like you can run a model, but it's going to run on our tool, and like the file formats are still controlled by us and everything, which is great from a commercial software perspective, because you just have to provide an interface and a um, yeah, like a programming interface API kind of thing. Uh,
mm,
but then it all has to run in a single memory environment, so it just it doesn't like fit well with our modern distributed systems. And when you've got
yeah.
a data center, like it's an inherently distributed system, it doesn't.
It doesn't feel particularly interoperable either if it's a file a file type that's still fundamentally locked into like whatever software generated the original model, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, it is a yeah, it's a big pain
Hmm.
to
Because it
use.
lets you it lets you sort of interface between tools and co-simulate, I guess, but it doesn't let you move your handling of your digital twin from one tool to another, right? It just
No,
permits interface.
you're still locked to the tool. So for model interchange, it basically encapsulates kind of a description of the model, and then the model will run on their tool still, essentially.
Hmm.
So you get kind of a mathematical model, um, but the actual execution is happening somewhere else on a different tool.
Okay, so there is some level of like some transparency in that they, yeah, okay, you don't sound overwhelmed by the amount on offer.
It's just yeah, it I can see with all the competing competing interests why that's the format that has like worked.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um
Sorry, I'm just gonna open. I've just realized quite how dark it looks. My
yeah,
video.
I end up with the same problem.
I was being blinded by the low sunlight before. It's got a little
Yeah.
bit better now. But yeah, I kind of had to like sit this up this straight, otherwise I was being blinded. And every time I like relaxed for a moment, I couldn't see anymore.
I have the exact same thing. The sun kind of shoots in the side and you're like, "Ah."
Yeah, 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 yeah. So it makes for some very weird, like the handling of the light and dark by my laptop camera as well can be pretty rogue. You just
Yeah.
end up with like a half moon face and everything else is black. Like,
Slightly Bond villain-esque.
yeah, 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 exactly, exactly. Um, yeah, I should read more into the FMI. I've come across it in conversation quite a lot, if you see what I mean. But
Yeah.
because we tend to integrate directly, if you see what I mean, with our software rather than using anything like that as an intermediary. Um, but it is worth me having more of a read into.
Yeah, I think I've spoken to some of your sales guys, and they've talked about how you've basically got an API that you can almost make do anything, and some people have, and
With the
it's like a
for our
scripting.
solver or for
I
yeah, so that'd be solver exchange, I think. That would be
yeah
solver exchange. So that lets you do sort of like on the fly co-simulation. Um, yeah, but then we've got a separate, as you might imagine, on the digital twin side, there's a separate like whole standalone tool that's all basically for pulling information in from elsewhere.
yeah
And that always used to be sort of hard coded integrations, and now we've moved across to like offering a sort of a REST API format so people can do the integration work themselves.
nice.
Um, I mean, we realistically will continue to do big and important ones. I think there was a realization that there comes a point, particularly when people have got in-house tools that they've developed that they want to interface with. It wasn't practical to take on all of that integration work.
Yeah,
Um, so I think that's probably the closest we've got to sort of relatively open API for pushing stuff into our software and pulling it out again, sort of thing.
cool.
All right. So I'll try and get that thing tomorrow at 3 p.m. into my calendar, and by which I mean my work calendar rather than it trying to be in the Google one. In fact, if I copy that link that you shared in there, just join it from this, I think. But yeah, so I'll join that, and I can send a sort of a little write up round on groups.io. I don't know what I have to. Do I say that's an action for me, and then the auto minutes and action generator will auto action me with it? I'll check back afterwards.
I don't know. Does it identify when that stuff happens?
I don't know. I haven't looked back at any of the sort of transcripts or minutes or whatever, so I don't know if there's like
Me
a hey
neither.
Siri, action me with this activity. But, I guess we'll
Well,
find out.
we'll find out, I guess.
Yeah, but
Um,
I'll go to that meeting, and I'll send any sort of relevant update that I hear from it. Um, and then yeah, in the meantime, standards and co-simulation, I think you said was what I'd throw my hat in for. And then you said Karush was interested in challenges, model interchange, and intellectual property considerations. I suppose
uh,
it
yeah,
presumably model interchange and intellectual property are part of the challenges.
yes, yeah. Those are both in there. They might be one and the same. Well, they're kind of different facets of the same problem, aren't they?
Yeah, 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 yeah. When you want to get stuff from other people, what format's it coming in, and are they going to give it to you?
Yeah.
These are both challenges.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so on my action, I'll carry on with this maturity model. I will get the table into a nice shareable graphic. Maybe have a look at some of the other stuff in that types of digital twins, like the other axes that play in, and see if we can put that in some kind of graphic as well.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Sherman as well on our teams, um, and see if he's been working offline on something, or whether he's been distracted or what. Just
Yeah.
find out. Yeah, because I
Okay.
guess at some point we just uh, yeah, at some point we just have to kind of take it and put something there, and then he can re-edit it if he wants to. But I think we probably
Yeah.
need a little bit of meat on the bones all over to
Yeah, I think
get us going.
that's the main thing right now. Is it like it's easier to edit when there's something there. When there's nothing there, it's like yeah.
Mm,
Um,
that
yeah.
was
So
my
we
key
did.
observation of AI generated marketing material. Was it was like good enough to be useful and bad enough to motivate you to edit
Yeah,
it.
I've recently been trying it out for like Copilot assistant coding, and yeah, it's like working with a junior dev. With
Mm,
It's like working with a junior dev who somehow has like memorized the entire documentation of whatever framework you're using, but has
mm.
no idea about software engineering or like maintainability or any of the other stuff that you care about when you're making software. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
Yeah,
it
some
just
of the
like blats out code, and you're like, wouldn't it be better if you did it this way? Oh yes, that would be way more maintainable, you know?
mm, yeah, I think the feedback I've heard from it from people is that it's good for like boilerplate stuff. So if you don't want the tedium of like typing out all the boring bits, if you see what I mean, it's handy for that. And then they also said, what was the other thing? For boilerplate and oh, they reckoned for generating like unit tests or regression tests and such like that
Yeah, I was going to say that seems to work really well. It seems
like
to
sufficiently constrained for it to get what being asked for and what's required and what it should look like because
yeah.
it's inherently a sort of constrained thing.
Yeah, it doesn't generate like all the unit tests you'd want or all the unit tests that like are covering corner cases, but like the basic unit tests of does it do the things I expect it to?
Mm,
It generates those no problem. But yeah, it's an interesting one. All those people, so I hadn't used it until like recently, and you'd see lots of people online basically being like, coders are not going to be needed anymore. We'll just ask AI and it'll make the code for us. And no, it's not that.
mm.
Um,
Well, I think it's one of those things where until it's really doing it all itself, like I would say that it's kind of like having a voice controlled car and you don't have to push the pedals and you don't have to steer, but if you don't know how to maneuver a large lump of metal along a congested road, it's no good to you. Do you know what I mean? That it can take your instructions to turn left and right and go faster if you're going to plow into people. Like, but yeah, so it needs that level of automated driving that you could get where you might be able to go, I want you to change lane, and then it knows everything that's involved in that and what's expected and what to account for. And it sounds like it's not at that point from everything I'm hearing. But
yeah, it's kind of well, it's just I mean, yeah, it's just statistics, right? So it's it's just statistics with a new name. So it's just like this is
mm,
the statistically most likely thing that you'd want based on what you asked for, and like
yeah, yeah,
everyone else coding, and you know everyone's writing unit tests, everyone's
yeah.
writing a ton of boilerplate code. So
It's
yeah,
good at them. Yeah, it makes sense. Does make sense. Right, oh,
yeah, right.
shall we call it?
Yeah,
Still 7 minutes back.
good chat. Yeah, well, I was gonna say as well. We got confirmation for the abstract submission. I think next week we should know whether we've
Yeah,
been
I saw
accepted.
I saw I saw that I think was that on the Friday? I do remember logging that I'd seen something saying about the abstract being submitted. Uh,
I added you as a speaker because we had to have
yeah, that was it.
some. It, yeah, it wanted to specify all the speakers and that kind of stuff. I decided you because I was like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But yeah, just so there's another point of contact for the abstract and everything else.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Cool.
So when you put the abstract in, did you have to submit a title as well, or was it just this is the abstract body sort of thing?
Uh, so I had to edit the abstract body slightly because there's a limit on the number of words allowed.
Oh,
It's like
okay.
like 1,000. It's like 1,000 characters or something like that. And then there was also social media bit that was need to be filled in, kind of a like a brief social media type blurb that describes the talk so they can put it in different places.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes
and
sense.
they wanted, bios of speakers and that kind of stuff. It was a bit more involved than just spamming off an abstract in a Word doc, but it's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah. Well, thanks for getting it done, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. We have to do it, so it's done. But yeah, now we got to actually do the content that the
Yeah,
talk
yeah, yeah,
is.
yeah. The actual work. Oh,
Yeah,
no,
the
it'll be
hard
fine.
part.
I think even if we didn't have more people joining, I think between four of us, it's feasible, and then anyone else we can get on board who wants to edit and curate and suggest adjustments or whatever. Like you said, once we've got something that people can propose edits for or comment on, then I think it will be easier than at the generation stage.
There's always like version two or a revised version of the paper after the fact. Um,
Mm,
I've looked at some of the other OCP stuff, and generally it's about you're not looking at massive documents. It's like 8, 10 pages is fine.
mm,
So yeah, shouldn't be too bad.
nice.
Cool.
Cool. All right, man. Have a good rest of your day,
Yeah,
and
you too.
I'll let you know how it goes tomorrow.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
All right, mate.
See ya.
I'll catch you later on. Bye bye.